So last January, 2 weeks before the Houston Half Marathon, my coach made me do what he called the impossible workout. 30 minutes at threshold pace, followed by 1 kilometer of kicking, even faster. All of it at half marathon pace, which for me is about 4:56 per mile.
You had to slide that one in there, didn't you, sir?
My point is that running on frozen roads near my house in Toronto to do this workout sounded daunting, and going to some gym and running on a regular treadmill sounded even worse. Luckily, Michael had a Wahoo KICKR RUN treadmill stashed in his home in northern Toronto, and so I took advantage of that last winter.
So that's why you kept coming over to my house all the time.
I mean, I also came for the company.
Sure.
And mainly for the KICKR RUN's run free mode, where the treadmill uses sensors to adjust its carpet speed so that it can respond to your running speed in real time. So it responds to you and not the other way around. Now that was helpful for the workout's kick portion, so I could accelerate naturally without having to worry about pressing buttons all the time. The treadmill also comes with the lateral tilt feature, which will simulate the angles of running on a natural terrain. So every step is not the same, which is a good thing. And it's kind of like if you're running outdoors. And bonus, the KICKR RUN connects with a laundry list of third-party apps, including Strava, the Wahoo Run app, and Zwift. So you can run free in Watopia.
It's quiet, simple, and effective. The treadmill follows you and not the other way around. It's available in the US, the UK, Germany, and Austria. And now you can get a free Headwind smart fan worth $319 when you order the KICKR RUN from Wahoo Fitness using the promo code MHRUN. That's all one word, MHRUN. Take our word for it, as well as the professional athletes that use it, including ultra runner David Roche, triathlete Chelsea Sodero, Olympic gold medalist Cole Hawker.
And now, me.
Okay, let's get to the show. This is the Marathon Handbook Podcast, and I am joined today by the AOL email of our pod, Caitlin Tossi, and Mr. Hotmail himself, Alex Sear.
Wow, I'm flattered. But what's AOL?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Thanks for that.
Well
right
done,
off the
sir.
bat.
And I'm Michael, and I'm the Proton Mail guy here. Do you guys even know what Proton Mail is? That's like the tinfoil hat email address right there.
Is that the DuckDuckGo of email addresses?
That is correct. That's exactly what it is. And I got both of those things going on. Okay, so today we are doing our fall 2025 gigantic mailbag episode. We are going to cover everything from how the heck you deal with illness when you're hitting your peak week in a marathon, which is just like heart-wrenching, but we've got some answers for you. Also, can you cheat your fitness in 30 days or less?
I can't wait to hear if we can.
I can't wait either, because I'll just keep doing that over and over again until I'm done with this running thing. As well as a number of other questions. How hard should you run your workouts? And of course, what the best Tangerine Dream soundtrack is for running. We'll get to that in a sec. That's definitely a Michael question right there. Very first one, guys, as we reach into the mailbag here. Actually, before we even get into that, we should say, please send us your questions. podcast@marathonhandbook.com. We will be fielding questions. I think we're going to start answering a question or two, maybe even every episode, because we're getting so many of them. I would also suggest that if your question is super pressing, you desperately need an answer for like the next week, just maybe write urgent in all caps in the email subject line or something, and we'll try our best to answer. We won't do an emergency pod per se, but we'll try our best to tackle the question.
Thinking what an urgent question is. I'm chafing. Do something.
It's raining a lot. No, actually, we've got one in like 1 or 2 questions time from listener Jeremy about how to hack your training in 30 days or less. And I feel guilty because he sent the email like 10, 12 days ago. And
so now he's got like 15 days. Yeah,
that's right. So we'll tell him how to cheat at his training in 15 days or less. Okay. So but the very first one.
Sorry. Do we want to plug our appearance at some majors, or are we saving that until the end?
Okay. We'll talk about it at the very end, but I'll say this. We're all going to be in Chicago, our whole gang, the three of us, plus our video producer, Kosuke. We're going to be doing some Chicago stuff. We have said in past episodes, we are going to do some sort of informal shakeout run, and we're trying to figure out if we're doing anything else as well. We're definitely going to record a podcast while we're there. Whether we can get a space for it or not, TBD, still working on that. If you're going to be in Chicago for the marathon weekend and you want to connect with us, maybe go for a shakeout run, email us at podcast@marathonhandbook.com. We already got quite a few emails, which is great. We're definitely going to plan something. We got to figure out what the perfect time is. We are working with a lot of factors here. We got to go to the press conference on Friday morning. We've got some Nike events to attend. We've got other events to attend. Tracksmith's doing neat stuff. So we're going to figure it out. We're going to make sure that we don't have it at 9 p.m. on Saturday night before the marathon. That's not a great idea. We will make sure it makes sense for people who are running the marathon. So send us an email. Let us know if you're going to be in Chicago and you want to join us for the run, and maybe some other stuff as well. One last thing to announce is we can say this publicly now. After we leave Chicago Monday morning, all three of us getting on an airplane, flying to Toronto, Canada. Caitlin is joining us in Toronto. The following week after Chicago is the Toronto Waterfront Marathon, which is an excellent large marathon, a global marathon. There's like 25,000 people that participate in the events over the course of the weekend. And we're going to be doing all kinds of fun stuff around Toronto. We will unpack all the details of what we're going to be up to, where we're going to be, what we're going to be covering, how we're going to be involved in Toronto Waterfront Marathon weekend, but it is going to be huge. Absolutely huge. We've had a planning meeting and it's super exciting. And we'll talk about that probably next week and the week after as well, but we'll tease that one for now. Okay, so question number 1, reaching into the mailbag.
All right.
This one is from Darla, and it's just a real straightforward, basic one. There was a study that came out in the last couple of weeks. Pretty big study. It's been covered a lot. Our colleague and editor emeritus, Amby Burfoot, wrote about it for our site. Our colleague Thomas took it on as an entire video on YouTube as well. It's basically a study that explores the success of marathon runners when you run a lot in advance of the marathon, and then maybe if you run less leading up to the marathon. It's a bit of a puzzling study. I think there's a lot of kind of gray area with this study. Anyway, we're going to put a link in the show notes, Darla, for you, to both Amby's piece on it and then also Thomas's very good video breakdown of it. He does the Run Long, Run Healthy podcast with our colleague, and it's great. You should listen to that. Okay, so we can move on to the next one. And the next one is from Jeremy, and he sent us a voice note.
This is my personal favorite.
Let's give this one a listen.
Great.
Hey guys, Jeremy Veenstra here. Love the podcast. #1 running podcast I'm listening to right now. Need your help. This past year I've been averaging somewhere between 95 to 115 kilometers a week. With that training, I ran a 1:14:57 half marathon. I haven't been running that long, but I was pretty excited about that. I took the summer off, pretty much only averaging 40 to 50 kilometers a week with hardly any speed work. I've got a half marathon in under a month. I've been ramping up my mileage over the past 2 weeks, but I realize I'm cutting it close. Wondering if you have any sort of advice on how to somehow cheat the training process. I am taking some risks on my training, which I know is unwise, but how can I cheat the training process that I won't be completely demoralized or devastated with my results? Or is it more VO2 max stuff, more threshold stuff? What advice would you give someone who's desperate for kind of cheating their fitness? Thanks, guys.
I love this.
Amazing
This is
question
so great.
from Jeremy. Amazing. Okay. I appreciate that he sort of seemed to take this with a little bit of a sense of humor as well, because he knows the question he's asking is like he's committing the ultimate sin in running, where it's like, how do I cut corners on my how do I get fitness in a period of time where it's kind of impossible to gain fitness?
First of all, congrats on that killer time.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one fast half marathon. I mean, I guess from my point of view, what I would say is just with the very small amount of time that you have left, just work very specific to the half marathon. So I would say, threshold stuff, and I bet Alex will probably back me up on this, but threshold stuff is usually what you want to focus on for the half marathon. So I would say get as specific as possible because you're so close to the race, and don't do a ton of stuff a ton faster than half marathon pace because you're already right there. So just kind of lock into that half marathon rate of perceived exertion as you have the last few weeks before your race. I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't know if that's cheating, but it's just kind of like the way I would approach it.
Yeah. When I hear cheating, I hear doping. And I'm like, well, at least he's not going there. It's like what can I do that's illegal?
Yeah.
Right.
So no, I love it because Jeremy's got the tone of like a high school kid who goes to the principal's office and he knows he did something wrong and he admits it. It's like, okay, totally. What can I do to make it better? Like, do I have to stay after school at detention? I'll do it. It's fine. So I agree with you, Caitlin. Like, I think specific work is what's needed at that point. Like, other people will be in Jeremy's position, even if not for the same reasons. Like, sometimes you get hurt mid-season and you wake up one day and you realize that you're not that fit and you have 4 weeks to go before your key race and you need to get as fit as you can in a short amount of time. So I actually think that this is a very applicable question to a lot of people, even those who didn't take the summer off voluntarily. Right. So I agree with Caitlin, but also I remember hearing this from my coach and several coaches actually over the years. The best bang for your buck workout is a VO2 max workout. So I would alternate between like threshold runs, which are very specific to your half marathon, and even those bread and butter VO2 max workouts. So in this case, maybe it's like a 4 to 6 minute interval with halftime rest, and do that, say 6 to 7 times. These are
tough. That's tough.
These are tough workouts, but they will get you fit quickly. And if your goal is just to run as well as you can without the summer to back it up, that's what I would do.
Yeah. My guess would be that he probably hasn't lost as much fitness as he thinks. If he's running a sub 1:15 half, this is a pretty fit, capable person, athletic person, speedy, certainly can get their legs moving pretty quick. It's not like you've been doing no running 40 or 50K a week throughout the summer. I mean, that'll keep some sense of a baseline, but you're just not super sharp at all. And I hate to break it to you, man, but like you're probably going to run at least a couple minutes slower than that personal best. And it's going to hurt more than that personal best too. It's going to be like a little bit of a punch in the face where you're like, so you run he ran 114 high, nearly 115. It'll be like a 117, 118, and it's going to hurt like it was a 114. And don't let it demoralize you, though. This is just all part of the process. Absorb it. My recommendation to you would actually be don't fret this too much and don't overreach, because then you could just snowball into injury in the next couple of months. I would instead probably just absorb it into your training and then maybe put in the calendar a goal race like a couple months down the road and use this as a litmus test for where your fitness is right now. Half marathon's not the greatest fitness test because it's a little bit of a longer effort and the last 5K are going to feel pretty hard for you. But I would do that probably. That's probably the more reasonable way of thinking. But if you're looking to cheat,
Michael.
There's only 2 ways to do this. One, you guys have both talked about, Alex, you've talked about VO2 max. You both are right. Alex talked about VO2 max. Famously, Kenenisa Bekele, the GOAT on the track, 5,000, 10,000 meter guy. He would apparently get into shape in like less than a month, and he would do massive VO2 max work. He'd do like hard 2s and 4s on the track and some 8s if he'd stretch it out. And that's how he got into shape. And he said he'd only need like a few weeks to get into like Olympic world record shape. But he's Kenenisa Bekele.
Yeah.
And the rest of us are not. The other approach, which aligns more with what Caitlin is saying, is something called the Norwegian singles method. Now, we have perhaps heard of, especially if you're like a 114, 115 runner, maybe have heard of like what the Norwegians, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, has made famous with the double threshold workouts, where you do 2 threshold workouts in one day, an AM and a PM workout. The Norwegian singles, it's basically like the discount version, the probably safer version, is you run sub-lactate threshold pace a lot in a week. So basically, and this is sort of like against what I believe in personally, but if you've only got a couple of weeks to do this, you can run a few sub-lactate threshold type pace runs in a week.
And by sub, easy. You mean slightly faster than lactate threshold? Slightly slower. Slightly slower.
Slightly slower. Got it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So basically, you're kind of running in what we would categorize typically as kind of the gray zone of running, which is kind of a danger zone of running long term, not something you should do for a long period of time, because I think it baits in injury and overuse injuries very quickly. But for a block, you can do that, and it gets you pretty fit pretty fast. But Jeremy, I would just say punt on it. Just absorb it into your training. Don't risk the long term, because like as Alex can attest, you get into a cycle of injury, and then it's just like you're writing a year off, right? So,
and then you'll never take a summer off again.
That's right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of lower, and it's not negative to, I'm not saying lower your expectations, but just don't think that this will be the PR half marathon. So you don't go in there and get super discouraged about it. Just go in and say, okay, I'm going to have a great time. I had this 1 month to train really hard, but think of it more as, like Michael's saying, like a benchmark to then start and get started up again for your next one. But don't be disappointed if you don't PR in this one.
Yeah, you're not Jeremy 114 half runner. You're not Jeremy 118 half runner. This is like think of the totality of the running project over the next number of years. You sound like you're probably a fairly young person. Think about the long term. Like, think where you could get yourself next fall if you're smart over the next few months.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Elizabeth from Wisconsin. She says, hello. Hi, all. I'm doing my first international marathon along the Loch Ness in Scotland this coming weekend.
Ooh.
I know you have all done travel races and international races. Do you have any tips to be the most successful in this situation? I've also been inspired to consider a 50K in the spring.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. Trail running.
Caitlin, you've hooked another one in. I hope I don't have the I'd rather curl up and die moments.
Oh, no, I did say that, didn't I?
You did say that. Yeah. But that's a 100-miler, so you don't have to worry about curling up and dying or wishing.
Not in a 50K.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Elizabeth, take it on.
Yeah, do it.
Love the pod, and my husband is definitely sick of me talking about it. Love that. That means we're doing something right, gang. Okay. Oh, and she also says, go Pack, go, because she's from Wisconsin.
Right. The Packers.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a great team. They've got a great future. Jordan Love. Yeah, he's the quarterback.
Yeah, because Rodgers is now long gone, right?
No, he's long gone. Yes.
Long gone. He's playing for the Steelers.
Distant memory. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Our contemporary, Caitlin. Anyway.
Okay.
So, Loch Ness. Funny story. I've run this race. This race, guys, is incredible. It's a great marathon. I think I've mentioned in the previous podcast before that I once went to a race to cover it in Scotland, and the night before the race, I was like, can I move down to the half? And they're like, there is no half. And I was like, oh,
oops.
Okay. I guess I'm running a marathon tomorrow morning. That was the Loch Ness marathon. It's an amazing race. It's beautiful.
It looks beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get into this here.
Okay.
We've all done our fair share of traveling for races. I'd say first things first. I mean, it's coming this weekend, so you've already booked your flight. But I would say, like, best case scenario, if you're traveling across the Atlantic Ocean and you're going in that direction, in terms of time change, I generally like to get there at least a few days in advance so that I can shake off the jet lag. Because jet lag for me going in that direction to Europe is very real. I don't know about you guys.
Well, yeah, I do. I have this little formula that I've given myself after trying it a few times. For each 2 hours of time change, I like to give myself a day. That's not always possible, but that translates to me going to Europe 3 days before a European race.
Yeah. And, I'm the one who's going to bring this up, and that's fine. But it's not only the jet lag, but let me just say, you want your body to get on its normal routines in the other, you guys are in the other time zone. And come on, we all know that's the most important thing. I'm serious. So I'll be the one to mention it. But I think that's really important to get on the new meal schedule and to get all of your eating routines also on schedule. So consequently, your bathroom routines are on schedule. I know everyone understands that's what I'm saying, but it's super important for a race, for a marathon.
What do you mean peeing? I'm
yes,
confused.
That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean, Michael. But yeah, so definitely the 3 days is a great time to get there and be able to kind of adapt to everything.
And if you can't, I've never done this, but I've heard of others doing it with varying degrees of success. It's kind of hard to do, but you can always start to live on that clock back home. Like, say, for example, right? Like, if your race is Saturday, I'm not sure what day it is, Saturday or Sunday, the Loch Ness race, but say the race is Sunday and you can't get off work and you have to leave on Saturday. You're in tight to try to acclimate. But what you could always do, starting on Wednesday, maybe even Thursday, start having dinners a lot earlier. Try to go to sleep a lot earlier. Try to wake up at 4 a.m., and maybe gradually get to that spot too, right? Like you could shift your entire schedule by an hour per day in the days leading up to it, and then see what that does for you. I think it's better to just go there early. Sometimes
but if you can't. That's a really good hack, Alex. I love that.
It's so hard to do, man, because like whoever else is in your life is just like, what the heck? Like, it's a weird time to go to sleep, weird time to do everything, and then with work, so easier said than done. But I don't know your situation. Maybe you're a freelancer and you're on your own schedule.
I'm just looking here. It starts at 10 a.m. on Sunday. So 10 a.m. is actually quite late for a marathon start time. And that would benefit you actually coming from, so she's coming from Wisconsin as well, which would probably be Central Time. So she's working with even a time zone back from what we're thinking here. But still, it's not as bad. Other little tips, I would say, definitely really focus on hydration. I find I get super dehydrated when I travel. I just forget to drink water. You're in the airplane. Like, make sure you've got a bottle with you. I would even buy like hydration mix and drink that just to make sure you're hydrated, because sometimes water doesn't quite do it. Yeah, get those meals regulated, because I think, Caitlin, you're totally right with like having your system totally, back to normal is a huge factor, a confidence booster on race morning. And don't nap when you land. When you land,
get on that schedule.
Yeah, you're going to land in where are you going to land? Glasgow, I guess, airport. Wherever it is you're landing in the UK, you're going to be super tired and it's going to really throw you off. You're going to have to take a train. Train's kind of nice and it's beautiful up there. Just hang on for that one day and hang on until that night, local time, and then have your nap.
It's so hard not to sleep on a train.
Yes, they
just lull you right to sleep, right? But do your best. Yeah. I would also say, even though this is just traveling in general, but make sure you really plan for the weather and you check out the differences, because I know that just what happened in my 100-miler, a lot of people did not plan for the cold. And so just make sure that you're really aware of the specific the logistics that you'll find there and the weather and all of that. So you're, because it will be obviously quite different from where you are.
And I should say specifically for Loch Ness, it's point to point, and the race starts at like the top of a big hill that overlooks the loch. It's incredible.
So cool.
But it's very exposed, and it's the Highlands of Scotland, so it can be quite windy and quite rainy sometimes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So be prepared for that. Bring some throwaways, garbage bag to trap the heat in, keep the rain out, try to keep your feet dry. Just think along those lines. I think you can bring a bag and then leave it in the buses that drop you off in the middle of nowhere to run it in. But think about those logistics. Plan to be sitting around and waiting in the middle of nowhere. It's a really weird start. It's a very cool memory. I have a great memory of it. It's a really neat experience. I'm so excited for you, Liz. Okay. Let us know how it went. Email us afterwards. Let us know how it went. I'm very curious to hear how it goes. And get a shakeout run in the day you land. It will make you feel better. Just like 20, 30 minutes.
Especially after being on a plane all day. It's a great idea.
And real quick, Loch Ness Monster, real, fake?
I've been sworn to secrecy since being there.
God.
We'll have to ask, Thomas. Thomas must know.
That's right. Thomas is Scottish, and he will know.
He will know.
All right, next one. This is more an observation than a question, and we love observations. We love suggestions. If you've got an idea for a future show topic, by all means, send us your suggestions. We love them. We got a really good one later on as well. But this one here is from John in the UK. Just wanted to give him a shout out for sending this our way because he says, loves the podcast, which is nice to hear. And he noted that he specifically likes our race previews. We preview every major. It's kind of one of our big commitments to what we do with the podcast. And he noted that while there are a good number of trail focused podcasts out there that will do a preview of, say, UTMB or Western States or Hard Rock, but there doesn't seem to be any road racing podcasts that do previews and do deep dives on these on marathons. And he wonders kind of why that is. I don't have an answer to that because we do what we do and we don't worry about what other people do. Although we did notice that when we started the pod, we did notice that there was this sort of gap in the coverage. And so we have purposefully come to fill that gap, right?
Yeah. And we love doing our homework and we love deep diving into all of this stuff. And I think that's maybe part of it, before it's really fun to do the after race stuff as well, because you've already got all the content, but it's really fun for us. Cause I think I can plainly say that we're all a little nerdy. So we like to kind of go into all the stats and all of the runners and all of the information pre-race. And we've found on the site that it seems to be pretty popular and people like to know what's going on before a marathon. So I'm glad that people are enjoying it, and because we'll keep doing it. We love it.
Yeah. I guess there's also like an easy alternative to doing this, and that's just doing what maybe some other outlets would do. And it's picking up the press release from the race and just maybe recycling that and maybe writing their takes on that. Like I see that a lot. And so maybe that's an easier way to prepare for a race, but I personally like this a lot more. I think this is kind of just like my text conversations spoken into existence before a race, because I think it's it's a fun thing to do, to speculate over races. And I mean, marathon's a funny thing because without the context, it can be a pretty dry experience just watching people run together for the first hour 50 to 2 hours until the break happens. So I think that, this is also my way to personally get fired up for those first hour and a half to 2 hours of a race.
Yeah. So you can definitely count on us to do previews of all major races, both races that, recreational runners can run, like the marathon majors, as well as, of course, like World Championships, Olympics, huge events, huge moments in running. We will make sure that we're there to do previews. And then also we love doing our instant reaction podcast. That's like some of the funnest stuff.
That's so fun.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another nice one from David in Australia. He says, "Hey, Marathon Handbook team, just wanted to reach out with a huge shout out and a huge thank you. I have just recently got back into distance running in the past 12 months after a 15-year hiatus from my first and only marathon."
Wow, 15 years.
Imagine doing one marathon and then just being like, I don't know what happened, David, in the previous marathon, but maybe it's just life, just like 15, you're like, I need to step away from this for a minute.
Michael, David and I have that in common.
Yeah,
because I ran Boston 20 years ago and then I started running out. Yeah. And I just started running like 20 years later. And I was like, okay, now it's time to run. So David and I have that in common.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So he says, it's your podcast that brought me back my love of training and distance running. I listen to all your pods on my runs and soak in all the advice and information, which is awesome to hear and makes very inspiring for us. And so this morning I ran my local marathon in Warrnambool, Australia. Did I pronounce that correctly? I apologize if I did not. Fun word. Despite a tough course that climbs and some single track, I was able to run 3:19 without super shoes. David, you, sir, are a legend.
Kudos
no super
to you.
shoes, 3:19. Well done. I can genuinely say it is guys that I guess you guys inspire me in a huge role in achieving my goal. Thank you and keep up the amazing work that you do. Cheers, David. Thank you for the nice email. That is cool that you've gotten back into marathon running. Just wanted to read that as like, love to hear that sort of thing. If you got a great story like that, please do share that with us. And we're honored that we can be a part of your success. Imagine what David could run in super shoes.
Yeah, and imagine what he could run not on a race that's half trail. I looked up the race and there was like varying terrain on it. It looked super cool, but from what I understood, if I did look at the correct race, and I think it just happened last weekend, like he's saying, it had single track, it had trail. It wasn't just like a road marathon. So it made it even that much more challenging. So kudos.
So Operation Send David to the Valencia Marathon with a fresh new pair of super shoes and see what he can run.
Yes.
Keep going, Dave. Nice.
There we go. We're selecting we're making his travel plans, his vacation plans for him. Okay. Let's listen to another voice note that we got here. This one is from Theo.
Hi, Marathon Handbook team. My question is about nutrition. How do you balance listening to your body versus following a nutrition plan while training in terms of both how much and what you should be eating?
That's a really good question.
This is I've thought about this one a lot over the years. Yeah. Caitlin, I'll turn to you first.
Oh, okay. Okay. I do try for the most part to follow a pretty good nutrition plan while I'm training, but I do adjust it depending on my training because clearly I do want to listen to my body as well. So for example, after the 100 miler that I just ran, even though I'm talking 7-8 days afterward, I wasn't running almost at all. I was just like doing a few light workouts, maybe 7 days later. I was still starving. And I was like, oh, but this is so strange. I'm not working out, and our minds do this to us. And we think, well, why am I so hungry if I'm not training a lot? So what I say is it's really important to listen to your body. I got hungry and I was eating. When I'm in these big training blocks, if I get hungry, and it's not on my nutrition plan, I will still supplement my nutrition plan with other food if I get hungry. I feel like listening to your body is really important. Runners, we put a lot of wear and tear on ourselves, and it's a lot of calories that we need to maintain our training. So I would say that that my biggest piece of advice would be listen to your body. You know what you need. If you're craving something and you're training a lot, there's probably a reason why you're craving that specific thing. Like when you get super thirsty, you're probably a little dehydrated. So if you're craving something specific, I would say try to, of course, within reason, follow those inklings and go ahead and listen to what you need.
Back in the day, 12 years ago, I used to crave beef liver.
Okay. Where's
And only later did I find out that I was anemic.
You see?
I've had this before. The body knows before the blood work comes back. These days, I have a couple rules. I keep it simple with nutrition. I don't measure grams. I don't measure carbs. I don't keep a log. That stuff works for some people. It's too anal for me. I can't get myself to do it.
Agreed.
But I do follow rules. When I'm hungry, I eat. There's a lot of talk about intermittent fasting and the potential benefits that it might have for some people. In my humble opinion, and I'm not a nutritionist, I don't think this stuff works for runners. When you're hungry, you got to eat. Yeah. If not, you will flame out. Eat when you're hungry. That's one of my rules. Eat after a workout. Sometimes after a workout, you're not hungry. Your stomach is upset because you've worked so hard. You should still eat. Have some protein, have some carbs, in just about equal parts. You don't have to get too fancy. I take a protein supplement and I have creatine in there, something I've experimented with and it works for me. But if it's chicken and rice, it's awesome. Eat after your workouts. That's a rule of mine. And drink water regularly. Stay hydrated. Those are the main things. Oh, one more thing. 3 meals a day, at least 3 meals a day. Don't skip meals.
Yeah, I would say to add to that, I mean, I think, just listen to your body, common sense, as you've both just said very eloquently. I'm imagining Alex now driving by a farm several years ago, seeing cattle in the fields and getting ravenous, chasing them down like a zombie. No, I would say go to the grocery store. The old hack is to just walk the outer ring of the grocery store and buy from there. Avoid the inner aisles because that's all the box stuff and the stuff that's probably not great for you. I eat too much cereal. I still eat too much cereal. Cereal is basically candy. It's easy, but probably try to avoid that stuff. Stick to whole foods. Create balance. After you're done a run, exactly. Carbs, some protein. A glass of milk, if you drink milk, is like an easy solve. It's kind of a weird thing to drink after a run, but it's actually kind of checks the box off. Like many years ago, chocolate milk was considered like the ultimate recovery drink. It wasn't because milk is the same as chocolate milk. It's like negligible difference. Maybe there's a few more carbs, right? A little bit more sugar. Something like that. Just approach things intelligently, eat when you're hungry, and be careful not to eat too much crap, basically would be.
I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I don't obsess over it.
Yeah. I want to throw one more quick thing, which veers a little bit more towards the do obsess over it. But I think this is just generally fair life advice. Get regular blood work done. We think about nutrition because we're afraid of being deficient in something. If your own cravings won't tell you that you're deficient in something, your blood work will. Probably should get a blood test every year anyway. So if you can muster it, go. Make sure your iron is good. Make sure your B12 is good. These things are important and truly foundational to running. If your iron's down, there's no point in training because you'd be better off just sitting on your butt and taking iron pills. Fatigued. You will improve more that way.
Yeah. If something's feeling off, if you're feeling drained, it's kind of the first thing to look at is iron levels. What's your sleep like? How are you recovering? What's your nutrition like? I think those are the first things to look at. Okay, so next question. Actually, this is an update from a previous question. So we took on a question from a listener viewer named Liam a while back, and he's followed up.
He's the official Marathon Handbook pen pal. Congratulations, Liam.
Nice.
That's right. We now have a correspondence going, and we would love to have a correspondence with more people as well. So obviously send us updates and more questions. Absolutely. Okay. So he says, "Hey, Michael, Caitlin, and Alex." He's looking forward to this episode and his training he's running the Lisbon Marathon coming up. It's going well. And he is starting to feel the sheer volume of the peak weeks and the big long runs. He has got a 36K run with 19K of marathon pace coming this upcoming Sunday when he wrote this email on September the 19th. So that's a massive long run. Yikes. He says, "Let's go." I like the enthusiasm. That is good. You can do that one. That's a peak week. Okay. So he ran the London Big Half a few weeks back now and set a new PR of 1:25:41.
Nice.
Wow,
that's awesome.
Nice.
Good time. And he felt like he executed well. He indicated that it was a touch warm, but that he stayed very consistent throughout, and felt like he had a little bit more in the tank. So he's saying, "I feel like that sub 3 hour target is tantalizingly within reach, but I'm still thinking that I'll set out at 3:05 pace and see how it feels during the second half. Because if you guys remember from this previous question of Liam's, he's dreaming about sub 3. And it's like, should I reach? We'll get into that in a second.
It's just with that half, I'm just doing the calculations.
Oh,
That's why I'm looking down. Oh, my goodness, Liam.
I've run the calculations, and it's
there.
So close.
Some would say tantalizingly close.
258.
You got 258. I looked at a couple of different ones. I got right around exactly 3 hours. Like a 125.41 is like 3 hours.
So close. I would absolutely be tempted for that as well. But I like that he's mentioning the 3:05 start, and then are you going to continue to read the email?
We'll continue, and we'll debate in a second here. So he wants to turn. He's now turning his attention to what shoes to wear. So this turns into an Alex question here. So he says, I wore the Alpha Fly 3 for the half marathon PR, and I have to admit, I just love this. I love it as a shoe. Agreed. Alpha Fly 3 is an amazing shoe. It's aggressive, but it also seems to give me some stability too. Totally true. He is thinking about the ASICS Metaspeed Sky Tokyo, and maybe even the Puma Faster Nitro Elite 3. We have reviewed all of these shoes, and we have all of these shoes and have tested and worn these shoes, and Alex has raced in these shoes as well. So I'm curious to hear what he has to say. He says that he's giving them both a test drive this week, that he loves the Sky Tokyo, and it's such a fun ride. And he likes the responsiveness and the smooth feel. And the Puma shoe is just wild. He's literally never felt something as fast on his feet. So his question is, should I stick with the Alpha Fly 3 for my upcoming marathon or try one of these alternatives? What do you guys... Oh, and also he says, Caitlin, congratulations on your 100 miler.
Oh, thank you.
He's been listening. Okay, so Alex, let's all tackle the shoe question first, and then we can debate what Liam should do in the marathon after.
Oh boy.
Okay, so first off, here's something you should not do. I've done this before, so I'm a hypocrite, and it turned out fine, but usually do not do this. Don't wear a new shoe for the first time in a race. Do at least one workout in the shoe before, especially in this case, because the 3 shoes that you mentioned, Liam, are quite different from each other. Just because you like the Alpha Fly doesn't mean you're going to like the Faster Nitro Elite 3 or the Tokyo. They're all quite different. Now, I've worn the 3 of them. My personal ranking, the Puma shoe is my favorite. The ASICS Tokyo is my second favorite out of those 3. And the Alpha Fly actually sits at number 3 for me. However, if you don't get the chance to try those shoes in a workout, and I mean, you'd have to buy the shoes to wear them in a workout, I would say stick to what you know. You can stick to the Alpha Fly. If it has less than, say, 300 kilometers on the shoe, you can keep wearing it. They are quite durable. If it's a beat-up Alpha Fly, I'd go get another pair, or I would dabble in these other 2. I think it would be a good use of an afternoon for you, Liam, to go to a running store that has a treadmill and also that has all 3 of those shoes, and just like run test them. Get on the treadmill, do a kilometer in each shoe just to get a feel for what they are like, and then that'll help you make a more informed decision. I don't know if there are 2 more different super shoes than the Alpha Fly 3 and the Puma Faster Nitro Elite 3. Yeah. They're built incredibly different. The Alpha Fly is big and bulky, and the Puma shoe feels more like a track spike. So if you jump ship right now, there's a very real possibility that you don't like the shoe that you're running in. So I think stick to the Alpha Fly unless you make your way to a running store and you can tell by yourself that bar none, one of those other shoes works better for you.
Yeah.
Great advice.
Yeah. Don't do anything new on race day. Make sure you feel confident in the shoes that you have. A big part, I think, a big element of the super shoes. I mean, there's science that indicates that for the vast majority of us, this is going to improve our performance. It's going to make us a more efficient runner. There's also the placebo effect, where it's like, if you feel confident in what you're wearing, you're going to run better. You want confidence. I would say if you ran your PR in the Alphafly 3 and you love them and you feel really confident in them and they're still relatively fresh, like say, for example, you only ran the half in them, they've still got a lot of life left in them. Just stick with what you know. That's a great shoe. I've run a marathon in them. I thought they were fantastic. I think they're a great shoe. I think they're a great marathon specific shoe as well. Okay, so let's discuss what we think, where we think Liam is at. This is, oh man, I'm like invested in this guy's
Me too.
outcome here.
And I'm getting like nervous as if he were my athlete. Like I'm getting nervous about giving the advice because I need more information. So I need to know about this 36K long run, the 19K at marathon pace. What marathon pace did he run? Did he run like an older marathon pace, which is which would be a 3:05 or a 3:10 pace at the end of the day, or did he run the sub 3 for 19 kilometers? Because if he did do that and he's got this half marathon time that is projecting him for that sub 3, that puts him in a really good position. So if these other factors also, not just including the half marathon, are also pointing towards, yes, that pace, when I run it, it feels doable, which I think it's like 4:12 a kilometer or something like that, the sub 3, right, Michael? Yeah. So I feel like if you've been running at 4:12 a kilometer, if you did it in that massive long run, I mean, and you were running fatigued for 36 kilometers and stuck in 19 at that 4:12 pace, and you felt like that was doable and you were able to finish your long run, then I feel like, oh no, you are there. You are there because that was, you're running your peak week. That means that you had the entire volume of basically the entire training block and the entire peak week on top of you before you got to that super long run. And so if those other factors are also all in line, then I would say it's pointing towards yes. Now, if the half marathon, if that was like some just amazing race and it was like this time that was out of this world, but your training hasn't pointed towards that same pace, then I would double think it and maybe start out, a little more conservatively and speed up as you continue throughout the marathon. So I guess I would just need a teeny bit more information to know how has all of the rest of the training been going. But, according to your half marathon time, I mean, it is tricky because you are there, Liam. You are like right there, right on the cusp. My goodness.
I have two thoughts.
Yeah.
One, I don't think you should change anything about your training and training paces, Liam, because things are working well for you. Now you're in the tail end of a training block. Like keep doing what you know. Don't try to change anything too crazy. Second thought, 3:05 and 3 flat are not your only two options when it comes to pace. We're somewhat limited to those round numbers. But maybe it's time, given that half marathon was so good, maybe it's time for you to consider something that isn't very sexy, but that might be effective, like going out in 3:02:30 pace. Work out what that is, and maybe stick to that. That does two things. One, if you think 3:05 will become a bit too easy for you by the time you're at the end of your training block, that it gives you a bit more of a challenge. And the second thing that it does for you is it gives you the option to pounce with 10 kilometers to go, with that 3-hour mark present. Don't overdo it. Don't get greedy. If you say 3:03, it's 3:03. That's the pace that you're going to stick at for the first half to even 3/4 of the race, and then see what you have left.
All right. So my thinking is this. I don't know how many days a week you run. I don't know what your volume is like. I don't know what the peak volume is like. But if you're running more or less every day or six to 7 times a week, you're doing a 36K with that big block of marathon pace in there. And if you're running that marathon pace at like a target 3, even a 3:05, like say you're sticking with your 3:05 pace for that, if you're able to manage that in the second half of a 36K long run, and you're able to do it, and you look at like your heart rate data, your perceived rate of exertion, and you're saying to yourself, like, I felt pretty strong. I was able to hold that pretty evenly. Those are massive, wonderful, positive indicators. And how many kilometers a week you run is not like there's no pure science around it, but I always kind of feel like if you're going to crack 3 hours in the marathon, if you're like if you're over 100 to 120K in your peak week, you're starting to get into that zone of like building the what's called load in sort of sports sciencey jargon, you're adding the load on that you need to achieve that goal, and you're building that aerobic base. You have that aerobic base. So I would say, I think Alex as well, I think we're all kind of talking the same way here. We're all super optimistic for you. This is all very positive stuff. So exciting. This isn't the last marathon you're ever going to run in your life either. So keep that in mind. There's also a spring race that you can run where you can have a big meaty goal like sub-3 as well. I would say opening half, pace it out at around, if everything else is lining up that we're talking about, opening half, pace it out at around 3:02 pace. Wait till 30K. You feel good at 30K and you're nice and even and everything feels good and it doesn't feel too intense. Wait 2 more kilometers until you get to 32K. Wait until you're 20 miles. And the last 10K, run down that sub-3, man. You can do it. Yeah. Because then you'll be in the window and you'll be safe to run. 10K to go. You've paced it out evenly and you feel strong. Attack.
If you can attack in those last 10K, wow, you ran a smart race.
Yes. And I think it sounds like he's there. That's so exciting. That is such an exciting goal. Yeah. And then it's Boston qualifying time and the sky's the limit for Liam. Okay. That's a good one. We're excited to hear how it goes. He's got, I think it's Lisbon's the end of October. It's October 25th. So he's got about a month from our recording date here. Also, one last final tip for you, Liam. Taper is really important if you've put on that amount of load. Okay.
Yes.
2-week taper or whatever your plan says. It might say 3. It doesn't mean you remove workouts, but you just start scaling it back, absorbing the recovery, focus on sleep, focus on nutrition and hydration, and get yourself, you're not losing fitness. Don't worry about it. And then carb load from the Friday to Sunday morning. Got a carb load. Anyway, very important. Okay. So, just a quick shout out to our listener viewer, Alec, who responded very hilariously. I had a little back and forth with Alec. He responded to a couple of weeks ago. We asked whether or not we should swear on the podcast. Got a ton of response. And, it was very, very divisive topic.
Split right down the middle.
Yeah. Right down the middle. And Alec responded hilariously, and I won't say it because we've decided not to swear for now. He said, "Why the F not?" Which I absolutely love.
Very funny.
And he noted that he's running the Boulderthon, which is coming up at the end of September. And he started running just a little over a year and a half ago, hoping to break 4:15 in the Boulderthon. We had a nice back and forth about Boulder, Colorado, because it's on my bucket list of places to go run. I've always wanted to run Magnolia Road in Boulder because that's where the great Running with the Buffaloes, the book, incredible sequences on Magnolia Road. It's one of the meccas of running in the world. So good luck to Alec. Okay, question from Thomas Hale. Thomas has a cross-training question, which I think is super important, and it's got a specific scenario, but I think this unpacks an overall scenario we've run into as runners at some point in our lives. He just herniated 2 discs in his back. Yeah. Why herniate just one? And he's been exiled to the stationary bike and the pool. I just wanted to see if you have had any workouts or just general advice on how to structure a workout while cross training. I currently just model it after running. So if I have a threshold work, say 3 by 2 miles workout for a comparison, I'll just do that effort and time I feel my run would end up being. And for VO2 max type workouts, I do shorter intervals, like he said, like Yasso 800s is an example. Mm-hmm. So that's what Yasso 800 is 10 by 800, right? Mm-hmm. And I just do about 2 minutes and 30 second intervals in that case. Pretty good effort there. I could be on the right track. Could I be on the right track, or am I totally getting this wrong and digging myself deeper into a hole? Any cross training advice would be huge. Had to miss my fall race, and I want to come back strong and crush Boston in April. Thanks. Tough spot to be in. Familiar spot, Mr. Sear.
Yeah, I mean, I spent September in your shoes, Thomas. Luckily, I don't think my discs were herniated, but that remains to be seen. But I think I have come up with, again, a small set of rules that I've developed over the last 10 years of being injured on and off. One being that when cross-training, I allow myself to work out more. And by that, I mean, I don't ever have any just easy days. Like when you plan a running week, many of your days are just easy days. You don't pick things up that much. It's an easy run. With cross-training, I hate to say it, but you almost have to do a little bit more just to try and maintain some fitness, and you still probably will lose a little bit of fitness. What's good, though, is when you're in the pool and you're on the bike, you're not stressing your body in the same way. Like you're not pounding the pavement every day. And so kind of like a cyclist would, you're able to dip into that threshold zone or even that VO2 max zone several times a week. So that's what I do. I will vary my methods of cross training. So you do the pool and the bike. I do the bike and the elliptical because I'm crap at the water. Is crap a curse word? No, I'm crap in the water. And so what I'll do is say on the bike, first day, I'll do about an hour to 75 minutes. And inside of that, I'll do some type of threshold style workout, like 6 times 5 minutes hard with about 1 minute of easy cycling in between. And the next day I'll do something similar on the elliptical, 10 by 2 minutes on, 1 minute off. I don't go crazy with the time. Like if you usually run for an hour a day, there's no real need to go cross train 2.5 hours a day. If you want to, and you can muster it mentally, you can. It probably will help you maintain more fitness. I don't do it. I try to stay more on the intensity side than just the volume. That's what I like. And don't push through pain while cross-training. If the bike hurts you just as much as your run does, or almost as much, it's not worth it. Do something else. Then that's how you're digging yourself a hole. It's pain-based, I think.
Yeah, I would say, Alex, what you're saying, it's very similar to what I think when I prescribe my athletes who have been injured. Well, first of all, make sure that everything that you're going to do is absolutely cleared by your PT or your doctor, right? That's number one. So get the guidelines from them. And number two, the rule is what Alex is saying is that nothing can hurt. So you don't want to have any pain, or at least whatever the discomfort is that you're allowed to have, as according to what your doctor or your PT says, because sometimes they say if it's a 3 or, you can work through some things, but make sure you're not having any pain. So those are rules number 1 and 2. So in contrast to what Alex is mentioning, I do like to continue to have the easy days in there. And what you're doing, I think, is excellent. Taking your running plan and kind of transforming it into the cross training is what I would do for my athlete. Mm-hmm. And on those easy days, I would add more time, like Alex is saying. So I wouldn't switch them for more strenuous days or workout days. I would still keep those maybe 3 days of intensity, right? Interchanged with the recovery runs or the recovery days. And those would be your long aerobic workouts. And it does get a little boring. It could on the cross-training machines, and I see why you would want to do more intervals because it's more interesting. But just, get those, the podcast you wanted to listen to or some really great movie you wanted to watch and get on the bike, and you can extend that time a little bit. So if your recovery runs were going to be 60 minutes, well, you could do an hour and 20 or an hour and 30 minutes. And that's how I would extend those easy runs, because it's perhaps going to be a little less effort for you. And like Alex mentioned, cyclists, they usually do a lot longer workouts because it's a little bit different, right, than the result that you get from running. So I would say that. And what you're doing with your quality sessions and your speed workouts is excellent. So you just want to do that like RPE. Take that RPE, that effort and that time, and just kind of translate it over to those cross-training machines. What you can extend again could be the warm up and the cool down. So if you want a little more time on either end, you could extend that. So if you usually warm up by running for 15, 20 minutes, maybe it could be 30.
So Kate, take Caitlin's advice or take my advice, but don't take both. Because essentially we're doing the same thing as we're supplementing somehow because we're losing out on the stimulus of running. I'm supplementing with intensity. Caitlin's supplementing with volume. If you
don't
increase
do both,
you might overcook yourself. So maybe pick one camp. And I mean, Caitlin's a coach, so maybe go with Caitlin.
No. They're great different ideas. It's just a different approach to the same thing.
Yeah. And also don't do both. Don't go overly ballistic.
I have done what Alex is recommending many years ago when I was injured and trying to bridge the gap. And this was in season and I was trying to salvage a marathon build, and I hurt myself with, like halfway through a really excellent build. And I was out for, I think 6 or 8 weeks with a muscle tear. And I actually ended up, I just went and did spin classes every day. I didn't get out of the saddle so that I could protect my leg, but I became like a fixture at the spin class for 2 months. And
is this before spin classes became all neon and dark and stuff?
No, this was like during that phase. It's like lots of techno music and just not really my scene, but I was like, I got to do this. And I secretly kind of loved it. And
it is a vibe.
I have fond memories of it. Me and all the girls, like I just remember I remember that class. It was a great class. And it salvaged my season. I ran at 240. I ran what I was planning on running. So
nice.
It is doable, and you're in a good spot if you're crossing off the big goal race, which sucks for the season. It's okay. You've got a long ways to go before April in Boston. Just take care of that back. Pick an approach. I think at this stage of my life, in my 40s, I would probably go with just sit on the bike longer and do a longer warm up and cool down. There's some metrics you can find online as to what cycling at this heart rate equals for running, because you got to do a lot more cycling to make it equal a run. You can do those sorts of things, but ultimately, and I think this is an opportunity for you to focus on if you got to do all the little things right, like tighten up the nutrition and think more about the kind of strength work you can do that doesn't mess with your herniated discs in your back, and focusing obviously on more sleep and all of the other things that the ancillary stuff that sometimes falls by the wayside when we're focusing on running. Okay.
I did want to mention one little tip. If you're going to be doing long run style workouts, like 1 day a week at the gym, and you're on those machines, when I had tendonitis in one of my knees way back when during the pandemic, I did like a brick style session for the long runs, which kind of helped me out, which means I would do part of it on the elliptical, part of it on the bike, part of it on the ski erg, because when it's so much time, you can just get really bored and it can be really monotonous doing the same machine. So my physical therapist had told me, if you want to kind of split it up and do half an hour on this, half an hour on this, half an hour on that, and you're getting the aerobic work in, it's just kind of a little tip if you tend to get bored on one machine. Yeah.
It's a great one. Didn't think about doing that. Where were you 13 years ago, Caitlin? I just sat on the spin bike every day. I was there when the teacher showed up, when the instructor showed up, and I was there when she left. All right. Let's listen to, this is a good one from, not that the previous ones were not, but this is an interesting one from, here we go, from Christian.
Hi, my name is Christian. I'm from Puerto Rico. I constantly listen to your podcast. I love it. Thanks for all the content. My question is regarding about track workouts. I never know how hard should I feel like I trained those days. For context, I am currently training for a marathon. I run about 5 to 6 days per week, about 65 miles per week. And I generally do 2 hard workouts per week, plus long run in the weekend. The rest are easy days. So for those 2 days on the track that I normally do either tempo or intervals reps, how hard should I feel like I trained those days? Should I feel like I gave it my all? Should it be like an 8 out of 10? Should I think about just leaving 1 rep in the tank? What would be like a good guidance for that? Again, thanks for everything.
It's a great question. I think this is like one of these questions where it's like, it's hard to know because unless you work with a coach, unless you work growing up in an environment where you kind of just figure this out with your training group, like with your high school team or university team, if you're running at that level, especially if you come into marathon running as an adult, it's like nobody tells you like how hard should hard feel. And that's why we talk a lot about RPE, right? And so what's your take on this one? I love the idea of like, should I run like this is the last interval that I'll ever run in my life?
I love that.
It's like, no, not that. Don't do that. Yeah. How do you guys do this? How do you approach track work in particular?
I would say like a general rule of thumb is, of course, to look at what I really want to hear Alex has to say on this too, like what kind of workouts you're referring to. So if you're saying intervals or you're doing like repetition pace, if you're using pace, for example, if you are doing intervals where you have a jog rest in between, or you have intervals where you have a complete rest in between, those are going to be different effort levels. So, yes. Right. So when if you're doing intervals on the track where you're completely stopping, well, you can be pushing pretty hard there. You can be going up to an 8-9 to do some really hard workouts. If you need to jog in between those intervals, it's going to be like a little bit of a tick lower, right? So you might be thinking of a 7 or an 8, depending on what you're doing. When you're doing threshold workout, well, threshold is usually around a 6. And so looking at the RPE chart, you can kind of figure out where you should be. And the RPE chart that we have that we could link in our notes really gives a clear description of each one of how you should feel. Now, when you're doing the workouts, you want to make sure that by the time you get to the last rep, you still feel strong enough to be able to complete that rep at around the same pace. So all of the reps are pretty consistent. If you leave a lot in the tank and you feel like your last rep was much faster than the rest, well, then you probably held back a little too much throughout the workout. If you're a little bit more inconsistent. If your last rep, you can barely squeak it out, then maybe you should have left it with 1 rep less. So I think it's a little bit of a tricky question because you have to see what is the objective of each specific workout. And so those 3 that I kind of just told you, the repetition, the interval, and the threshold, you can kind of base that within those numbers that I mentioned on the RPE scale and take a look at how you're supposed to feel. But definitely not every workout should be all out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think there is such a thing as like the workout 3 weeks before the race that we call the prove it workout, where if you don't have other races leading up to your goal race, you want to put a bit more mustard on it and see how close you can get to certain time goals inside of a workout. But those are the exceptions. I had a coach in the past who had this saying, and that applies to, I think, most interval workouts. It's that you should finish feeling like you could do one more interval.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But no more than one.
Right.
Just one more interval. If your workout is 7 times 1 kilometer, you should be happy that you're done at 7, but knowing that if push came to shove, you could do an 8th one.
I think that thinking specifically applies to VO2 max intervals on the track for sure. Like the old move, like in the olden days of coaching, and this is like borderline abuse, but in the olden days of coaching, you'd run like your 10 by 800 or whatever, and then the coach would say at the end, "All right, one more."
Oh man,
just to kind of keep you on your toes. Thankfully, not many people do that anymore because it's kind of like psychological and physical abuse to a degree. But you should be approaching it with that mentality of never leave it all out on the track. I think that's a big mistake, especially if you're doing more kind of like lactate threshold interval stuff. Like, as you said, Caitlin, that's a much more controlled pace. That's what you can do all out in 1 hour. So if you're doing like, blocks of 1, 2, 3, even 5K at lactate threshold pace, you need to feel like you're really under control and like you're not kind of crossing over the precipice and pushing too hard and struggling to maintain that pace and that form. I think you always want to leave a workout feeling like you had a little bit left. And I actually would disagree with you, Alex, about the prove it workout. I think the prove it workout is a trap. I think I've seen, especially with the marathon, I've seen so many people that put down a massive workout 3-4 weeks out from a marathon or a massive long run with a huge block of work in it. And they're just like, I crushed that. And then they feel flat on marathon on race day. It's because you ran your race in training. So I would always show confidence, show belief in what you're doing, believe in your training plan. Yeah. Just do what you need to do and nothing more. Don't get greedy in the workout. Okay. So let's go. Oh, just next one here is just a nice note from Neil and San Antonio. We mentioned we're coming to the running event in, what's that, like early December, the running event?
It's early December. Yeah. First, the second, third, and fourth.
We're going to get to see all the upcoming gear, shoes for 2026. We're going to do a lot of content around that. We're going to do a live podcast there. He wanted to know, he noted, first of all, that we were joking about, we're going to find a bar where there's a mechanical bull and we can wear a 10-gallon hat and Caitlin's 100-miler belt buckle.
Yep.
I kind of know that that's sort of not the vibe of San Antonio. He gave us some great recommendations about where to stay and what to do. And he wanted to know whether or not we were going to do some sort of get together or event. We are definitely going to do something when we're there. And we will make sure you know about it in a podcast in advance of that. If you happen to be in San Antonio for the running event, which is an awesome event. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, got to answer a question about the one and only exercise that fixes all of our ills, the single leg glute bridge.
No, remember, it's all of our problems. It will fix all of your life problems.
It's fixing our relationship problems, financial issues.
That's right.
It negotiated a new mortgage rate for me.
Fantastic.
Okay. Well, after the break, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about VO2 max as well. Right back.
Great.
All right, and we're back. This one's from J Hall 49, and great question here. So we did an episode about this kind of extraordinary study that looked at injuries, repetitive use injuries in runners, a very massive classic problem that we all encounter at some point in our running. And it zeroed in on one key exercise that seemed to help resolve a shocking number of running related injury issues. And that is the single leg glute bridge. And it noted in the study that if you were able to hold it for 20 to 29 seconds, it showed a phenomenal decrease in repetitive stress injuries. This person is asking, it's a great question. They said, I may have missed it, but what are the recommended reps and sets for the single leg glute bridge when holding for 20 to 29 seconds? Is it just one rep on per leg, or are there a certain number of reps and more sets? Thanks, and really enjoy your podcasts. Caitlin, we talked about this before we hit record on the pod. What's your take on this?
Yeah, he's absolutely right. Because I actually, when I saw the question, I went back and I looked at the study again, and I kind of ran through it to see what it would suggest for training, and I didn't find anything. So when I structure strength training for my runners, I mean, usually we're talking about you want to do something more than one time. So I usually prefer to do 3 sets. And if you're doing, separate reps, because what you can do is you can incorporate the single leg glute bridge in 2 different ways. You can do reps and you can do the isometric holds, right? So what I would do is I would sprinkle it in to your training program in those 2 different ways. So some days I would do 3 sets of, right leg and left leg, working up to that 30 seconds on each leg 3 times. And then sometimes I would do, 10 to 12 reps on each of those legs 3 times. And then you can even bring it to another level at some point. If you want to add like a dumbbell onto your hips and you want to add a little bit of weight, you could add that to make it a little more challenging, either isometric or reps. So just kind of mix it up. But yeah, just once I would say is probably not enough to stress your body. So in training, I would do 3 sets of a bunch of about 8 to 12 reps.
There you go. I think that's a great. I think that resolves the issue right there. Yeah. Very variety, reps, testing your ability to hold it to that kind of 30-second range. You should be good.
Yeah.
think more than anything, the important thing is just to incorporate that sort of strength work and stability work on a regular basis in your weekly routine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is from Kelly, and it's related to VO2 max. First, she says she noted that I was in Stowe, Vermont. I mentioned this in a previous podcast of ours, and she says that she's about an hour north of Stowe, and it is indeed a beautiful state, as she notes in the email. It's a great spot to run and hike. So she's asking that she said she ran her first and so far only marathon 3 years ago when she was 54. She hadn't run seriously since high school. She had some injuries as well. And she said, I know you frown upon this, but I really went from couch to marathon in less than 5 months.
Oh,
Kelly. But you're here. You're with us now. You're a marathoner now. Welcome. I followed a plan I found online only to recently realize that it was a marathon handbook plan.
Woo!
That's nice. It was a great plan, and it helped her finish in 4 hours, 34 minutes, which is fantastic. And then this past April, she ran her first half marathon in 2:05, which is also great. And these are 2 races that she's done in her adult life, and now she is moving on to running a 10K the weekend from when she sent us this email not long ago. And she gets into this question here, which I think is actually a really common thing that I've encountered, and I've kind of encountered to a degree myself. I know my wife is experiencing this as well. I think this is something like when you kind of cross over the great divide of middle age and you're dealing with trying to figure out your VO2 max. And so she says here, she's dealing with a situation with VO2 max, which is that she did a test and she scored a 40 on her VO2 max. She said, though it's a good score for my age, she's 57, one of my goals is to improve that score. And she said, there's obviously a lot online to know about, to kind of figure out. There's RPE, there's heart rate zones, there's just running hard. She's tried all these different approaches, and which including 3 minutes of repeats, attempted to run at threshold pace and at 30, 60, and 90, and doing 30, 60, and 90 second hill repeats. Basically, she goes on to say that when she's doing these 3-minute intervals, she's having a tough time sustaining the effort needed to get into an anaerobic space. For her, that would be 157 heart rate or higher, right? So you've got your max heart rate, which you can calculate in a variety of ways. And then you've got your zones. We've talked about zone 1, zone 2, zone whatever. We've talked about the zone training before. But basically, you're trying to pinpoint your VO2 max effort level, your lactate threshold effort level, and then you can extrapolate your paces from that. And also you can extrapolate goal race times from that as well. She is trying to figure out here how to push herself into this zone where she feels like she's at the VO2 max zone, because she is fearful of running the dreaded junk workouts. And she specifically mentions, Alex, you categorize them as blob workouts. And she's like, I just think of Alex describing them as blob workouts. She does mention that she strength trains 4 times a week, upper, lower core, and full body, which is amazing, which would be like my first piece of advice for her would be like, make sure you're like doing the squats, keeping those muscle fibers nice and active, trying to build as much muscle density and muscle strength as possible. She's clearly doing that. So she's doing all that work. Caitlin, we're the old timers here. What's your take on this?
My take is, I think that heart rate training can be a little tricky because sometimes the heart rate can lag behind your effort, right? Mm-hmm. Things like fatigue, heat, caffeine, stress, if you're taking a medication. There are so many factors that can affect your heart rate in so many different ways that heart rate has actually become kind of like second fiddle to RPE training. And I know we talk about that a lot. And the reason is because it can be a little not as precise.
Imprecise, yeah.
Imprecise, thank you. Sorry. You guys, sometimes really the translation, which I'm like translating Spanish and English, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is that a word? Is that not a word? It's embarrassing. So I think that, sorry, it's super embarrassing. So I think that it's really important to not focus and worry so much about your heart rate and worry more about RPE and think about what RPE, how am I feeling? If you are running those hill sprints and you are running all out and your heart rate is not getting to where you think it should be, then you're probably still putting in the effort necessary to improve your VO2 max in those VO2 max workouts. So I would say there are a couple things you can do. If you really, really, really want to use heart rate, then I would get a test. I would go and get your heart rate zones tested in a lab so you know exactly what they should be and you don't use an equation that could also be undershooting or overshooting your max heart rate. So that's if you really, really want to use your heart rate, you could do that, but go ahead and get it done in a lab. So you can really figure out and determine your specific exact heart rates, because it could be a lot higher or a lot lower than you expect, and or use your rate of perceived exertion training instead, because you know your body, you know the effort you're pushing through. And if you are pushing at VO2 max effort and can't do any more than your heart rate just isn't those numbers could be imprecise.
I would say that also it kind of depends on what it is you're trying to get out of all this, right? And I would say, I mean, obviously, if you're training for a 10K and you're doing more in 5 and 10K stuff, definitely VO2 max is something you have to focus a lot more on. And it is overall a fairly straightforward way of gaining improvement. I'd say if you're focused more on the marathon, you're going to be doing a lot of lactate threshold work anyway. So sort of staying north of that zone is fine anyhow. But yeah, it sounds to me like can't trust the watch all the time, right? The watch is telling you, and this is another problem with the watch. The watch can be like 10, 15 beats off, and which is frustrating. So I would say if you really want to focus on using heart rate, I would go with, I think Koros makes an armband that I've been told is much more accurate, or the chest strap is obviously much more accurate than the wrist-based heart rate monitor. And then also, like you said, Caitlin, like really dialing in to figure out what your max heart rate actually is. It might be lower than you think it is, and that might explain why you're having a tough time getting into this higher echelon, because maybe you don't need to be getting in the higher echelon. I'd focus on RPE. I'd focus on that perceived effort. And if you still feel like you're hitting a wall, maybe going in and finding like a lab test, which I know is costly and annoying to do, and it's tough to find a place to go and get that commercially done, but it could be worth your while, especially if you're this committed. But yeah, I'd focus on RPE. I'd make yourself think about those ranges. Hill repeats obviously are great for that. I'd say you're doing everything else right. I'd say doing the strength training is really important, especially I think north of 40, you have to really start focusing on recovery and strength.
Oh yes, we know it, Michael.
To maintain muscle fibers, because they start to slip away like the sands of time.
Michael.
That was a reference to a soap opera of the 1980s and 90s. Okay, these are the days of our lives.
Oh my God.
I have all my muscles fibers that I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, you're like, I'm sitting this one out.
No.
Young
the
guy
days of
over
our
here.
lives. I can picture when they turn over the sand. Oh my goodness.
These are the days of our lives. Whenever that was on as I was a kid, I was like, oh, the cartoons are over. This sucks. The world sucks again. It's like 1 p.m. is like just this nightmare hour of summer TV programming for in 1987. Okay. Guys, this next one, I've been waiting the entire episode to tackle this next one. This is, I'm going to, in NBA parlance, clear out, I'm going ISO ball with this one. This is the most Michael question ever. In fact, it is targeted entirely at me. I feel like I'm getting trolled a little bit here. Are either of you Jess Ford? Is that your ghost account? Is this your burner? Alex, is this you?
No.
So this question for Michael from Jess Ford. Favorite Tangerine Dream score? ? Alex is like, I don't even know what a Tangerine Dream is. Is that
I don't either.
Is that like a syrupy shot at a bar? Tangerine Dream are a musical group that are still going, actually. Okay. I was struggling between the soundtrack to the 1981 Michael Mann film Thief and the soundtrack to the 1977 William Friedkin film Sorcerer. And I went with Thief 1 and Sorcerer 2. And I got actually Risky Business, the Tom Cruise film from the 80s where he slides across the floor in his underwear with the Ray-Bans on.
I've seen that film.
Yeah. Tangerine Dream actually technically did the soundtrack to that. They have a bunch of the Tangerine Dream songs are in that film. Kind of like a synth prog thinky rock group. And I was just listening to the Thief soundtrack this morning as I was prepping for this podcast, and man, that soundtrack slaps. I'm like, that's so good. Little recommendation for you if you're looking for running music along these lines. Musical scores, soundtracks are actually pretty good for like a good 60, 75 minute run. The duo of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who are the brains behind Nine Inch Nails, they make soundtracks for films these days. And the Social Network score, the film The Social Network about Facebook, the creation of Facebook, the Zuckerberg story, that soundtrack is absolutely killer for running. It's an awesome running soundtrack. Anything by Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross. Challengers, the tennis movie that came out last year, incredible running, that soundtrack. Yeah.
Was it Trent and Atticus Ross who made that soundtrack for Challenger?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I really like that. See, that's why I like music recommendations from you, Michael. You give me 5 songs. You say, go for a run, listen to these 5 songs, and you'll be done your run. And I'm like, okay, nice. It's going to be a short run. And then all of your music recommendations are like 15 minutes per song. So next thing I know it's like a 75-minute run.
There you go. Exactly. Exactly. My Godspeed You Back, Black Emperor recommendations. Okay, so next one here. Well, this is another good one. Travis from Melbourne asks, he's embarking on his first marathon in November. He has a track background. Sounds familiar, Mr. Sear.
Ooh, Travis, one of my own.
And he says he is learning heaps and he appreciates the podcast and Marathon Handbook's resources. So transformative to the way I am been preparing. That's nice to hear. Transformative is like, that's a nice verb. And his question is, what should my training in the off season, post-marathon, between marathons look like? I'd love to be able to maintain a good base for when I choose to do my next marathon. Thanks heaps for your advice and assistance. You know it's someone from Australia when they say heaps.
Heaps. Twice.
Yeah.
Heaps.
That's an Australian thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never heard of that. I like that.
You know what? I would have stepped aside and I would have let you two answer this question because I would have thought that my answer would not be relevant, but you told me you have a track background, Travis, so I'm going to throw it your way. So I know for a fact that Michael and I do something different after a peak race. And Caitlin, I'm not sure. When your race is 100 miles, although you waited a couple of days and went for a run, so maybe you're just superhuman. But I don't take all that much time off. It's build for a season, run the race, take about a week off, and then start easy running again. It's pretty quick in and out of the off time. I'm 30, just turned 30, and that's how I was used to doing things in college. I'm not all that removed from college, so it does feel pretty natural. If you've done that in the past and it's worked for you, I would say don't question it. Keep doing it. The important thing is take that first week very easy and take that second week as a transitional week. Don't jump right back into mileage. If that feels like level expert or level advanced, perhaps Michael has a better alternative for you.
Ouch! Wow!
That's a dig.
Well, I mean,
it's a slight. That is If you're looking for the less advanced option, go with the recreational
Go
runner's
with Michael and
advice here.
Caitlin.
Well, there's
Elite
advanced in
guy will be
different
over
sense,
here.
right?
Yeah.
If you're looking to run a 65-minute half marathon, it's one thing. But also if you're looking to get the most out of yourself and study the marathon and nail it as best you can, which is expertise in another sense, listen to Michael. So was that better? Is that a better handoff?
Marginally. Okay, so here's the real advice. This guy's never run a marathon before, so he doesn't know what he's talking about. All right, Travis.
Me?
Okay, if you're focusing on the marathon is exponentially harder on your body and your mind than the piddly little half marathon that Alex does, even if he runs it in the amount of time it takes most people to run a 10K.
A 10K.
Take a month, and don't take a month off from running, because that would leave you a lot of base building work to do in your next season. But create a 1 month buffer.
Jeremy, are you still listening?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Our previous guy, Jeremy, the 1 month guy. Okay, in 1 month, this is what you actually do. You take a month. Week 1, no running at all. Week 2, run when you feel like it, for up to like 30 to 45 minutes per run. You can run twice that week, 3 times that week. Don't run every day that week. That's clowny and not a great idea. Week 3, you can get back into running regularly. You can run up to like 60 minutes. Go for a run with your running pals, that kind of stuff. Week 4, start transitioning back into some sort of a structure. You don't need to do a workout. Your long run doesn't need to be long. You can run like 10 miles or even 20K or something like that at the end of that month. And then that's the jumping off point for base building 16 or whatever weeks that you're going to do for the marathon. And that's how the grown-ups do it, Alex. That's how I got that one from, I don't know, a couple of like 202 Kenyan guys. That's sort of how they approach it. So, I mean, they're not 105 half marathoners like Mr. Sub-elite athlete Alex Sear here, but no. I think that's probably a smart way to approach the marathon. I would say
I'm on board. I'm on board with you, Michael, 100%. The only thing I would just sprinkle in is to get back into the strength training maybe a couple of weeks later, a few weeks later. You can start base building back up with your strength as well.
Fine.
Caitlin.
I know you don't want to. Yes.
How much time did you take after your 100-miler?
Busted.
I am totally busted, but I actually want to be honest about it. As I've been running this week very easily, I'm like, wow, I'm going to be just going out and running easily on how I feel for a long time. Like this is, there are no workouts in my near future. And I've thought a lot about you, Michael, because I hadn't run a 100-miler in 10 years. Wow. And I did, and I have been feeling this these days. And I'm like, yeah, I got to take some extra days off. And I definitely just have to go out and run easy. And there are no workouts I don't even think next week. So I think it'll be 3 weeks before I even think about maybe like, I don't know, running a stride here and there. And that's maybe. So I am just taking it very, very easy. And I think it's important because my body still feels fatigued. And running a hard marathon can also make you feel just as fatigued.
Yeah. And I would say that I don't think anyone here is in like danger of this, but if you don't take time off and you don't create that periodization and you don't give yourself a break, you can fry your nervous system. You can screw up your glands that produce hormones that are needed to self-regulate. I mean, you can do all sorts of nasty stuff to yourself if you do not take breaks from running. So I would say mature, responsible runners are able to take time off and believe in their fitness and believe in their future selves that they're going to have success in the future. Don't worry about a few days off. You're not going to lose fitness. Okay, next one here. Quick shout out to Blake from Texas. Like we said earlier, we love to get suggestions, recommendations for podcast ideas. He sent us a list of 9 different ideas for topics, which we really appreciate, which was amazing, including one which before we hit record on the podcast, we started debating about like, what do we do? He was like, should you wear underwear underneath your clothes, underneath your running clothes? Such a good
question.
Great question.
Yeah.
In fact, there are some brands that have developed like running specific underwear.
That's true.
Underneath your running clothes, to be specific. On the day-to-day, I think all 3 of us wear underwear.
You guys wear underwear?
Yeah. What? No. What?
I'm definitely an underwear guy. Yes, I wear underwear. I can say that. I'm comfortable saying that. Not that there's anything wrong with commando.
Commando. That was the word that was on the tip of my tongue. What do you call it when someone walks around the world without underwear? Commando. That's it.
If there's anybody listening or watching right now that doesn't wear no, I'm kidding. I'm just gonna let that one go. Just gonna move on. We're gonna get a note from HR. Okay, so this is a good one here. Kari. I believe I'm pronouncing Kari or Carrie, Kari. Carrie? Okay. Carrie. First of all, love listening to you guys. Hopefully we didn't butcher your name a second ago. Thanks for the helpful and encouraging podcast. Okay, we've all been here. My whole family got sick this past week. My husband and I had fevers, chills, body aches, and fatigue. And we had to take a break from running. I'm only in the second week of a half marathon plan, so it's not a big problem for me. But my husband just missed his peak volume week in a marathon training build.
Man.
What do you do when you come back from sickness like this? Do you try to repeat the week you missed and squish the remaining weeks somehow to get rid of that, to get ready to get to your target race? Or do you gradually build back and hope for the best, even if you never hit that peak week of volume? First of all, Carrie, kudos to you. You're basically sending a question in for your husband more than for yourself, because you're in the safe zone. You're just early on in your build. You're just going to roll with it.
You just keep going.
This is not going to affect your training. Take a week off and you'll be fine.
And you got the antibodies. You got all of it out of the way. What would I give to get sick on the second week of a training? But you got it nailed. You're going to have a hell of a season.
That's right. But the husband, peak week, he missed. Presumably she said he missed the peak week. He was out of commission for the peak week. First of all, credit to him for not trying to run through it. Sounds like it was a fairly severe illness that could have screwed you up pretty badly if you tried to go out and be a hero.
Right.
So probably the smartest play to steer clear of destroying yourself in your peak week. Caitlin, what do you do in this situation? Peak week.
Okay.
You've got that's like nasty cold or flu-like symptoms.
Yeah, that's really hard. So I would say, okay, there is a little bit of a workaround that you could do. And this all depends on how many weeks out your peak week was from your marathon. So I'm going to give the answer with, if you decided to peak, because peak weeks can usually they're 3 weeks out from the marathon, but some people peak 4 weeks out. Some people peak 2 weeks out. So if you were peaking 4 or 3 weeks out, you are very lucky. So what I would do is lucky in the sense that I think you might not need to miss your peak long run. So what I think that you could maybe do is not repeat the entire peak week. What I would do is I would just continue with the plan. So that means that during the week you might be tapering a little bit. But what I would try to do is I would take that peak long run and I would move it until that following week if you're feeling 100%. So if you were peaking 4 weeks out, now you're going to peak 3 weeks out. Or if you were peaking 3 weeks out, it might be a little riskier, but you can peak 2 weeks out. Just do the peak long run instead of adding anything else to that week before. And then perhaps taper a little bit more than in your initial training plan. So a little more severely to lower the volume to make sure you're comfortable with it. So this could be a workaround if your peak week was 4 or 3 weeks out, right? Because I know, Michael, you're a 2-week taper guy, right?
Yep.
So yeah. So
but I don't peak 2 weeks out. I usually peak 4 weeks out and sort of start to come down, and then I properly taper for 2 weeks. So yeah, I would do sort of something along the lines of what you're saying, which is I would shift it, make sure you feel 100%, because sometimes that recovery is not, it's not nice and clean where it's like, I'm missing 7 days and then I'm 100% again after 7 days. Hopefully it was just sort of more like a 5-day type illness and you're feeling better after a couple. Focus on hydration because you probably wrecked yourself in your illness. And I don't know, go back and look at that training. If you did a big training block, you did a big like 14, 16, 20 week build, look back at all that training, look at those numbers, look at how many long runs you did, reassure yourself that you're not going to live and die by a peak week.
Right.
Try to ramp back up again, get as much running out of those closing weeks as you can. Do not cheat the taper. You can tighten the taper maybe a little. You could try a 10-day taper. I have done a 10-day taper for a marathon before. It does work. You just have to be very careful on that taper to take it easy, right? And then go into that marathon and lower the expectations a touch. You know, if your goal was, I don't know, whatever, let's just throw a number out there, 3:30. Your goal was 3:30, make it 3:35, you know, and pace it out. And if you feel great in the second half, great, game on. Doesn't feel great, that's okay.
And
it's tough.
and
this
you know
life
what?
is part of it, right?
Like you said, Michael, I guess you really have to focus on, because if that doesn't work out, like if you were going to do your peak run the 3 weeks out or the 2 weeks out and you just can't move it because it's too close to the marathon, perfect. You have to look at the consistency, like Michael said, in your entire training block and all the volume that you've already done, because one run doesn't make or break your marathon either. I mean, you have to think about all that training that you've been doing, and maybe you had what I call pre-peaks. And you did some other really long runs, like 6 weeks out. And so those pre-peaks are gold. I mean, you've already done long mileage on other days, so just one run won't make or break it. So if it's not going to work out, because you don't want to take any big risks. So if you're not feeling great, or the timing wasn't right and your peak week is already too close to the marathon, remember that you can still have a great day, and you have to really trust all of the volume that you've been doing up until this point.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is, this is just a nice comment from Martina in Detroit. And she noted that speaking of peak weeks, our peak week episode that we did a few weeks ago coincided with her peak week quite nicely. And that she's training for Chicago. And that she says, I believe she says here, yep, hoping to catch you live in Chicago. Hopefully we'll run into you, Martina. And good luck in the rest of the training. The hay is pretty close to being in the barn for you right now. And she noted that she gave it a shout out to Alex, because she's from Austria.
Hey.
She wanted to make sure you've left no carbs behind when you were in Austria.
I left no carbs behind, Martina, and no protein behind. Who knew that boiled beef in a pot was just boiled beef in a pot? It's the weirdest lunch I've ever had. It's just 2 big hunks of beef. Delicious, though. Martina, we're kindred spirits, you and I, because I lived in Windsor for 2 years, just across the border from you in Detroit. And many of my friends / teammates would do the Detroit Marathon weekend, oftentimes the half. The Detroit Marathon is so cool because you cross the border. Like you do
truly international marathon.
Yeah.
They need your passport. They actually I think they take your passport. They certainly have a copy of your passport so that you can cross over to the other side, because you got to go out and back. I think you do the tunnel and the bridge.
I think you do the tunnel and the Ambassador Bridge. Yeah. Yeah. A very unique marathon. Super cool. And it's on my bucket list.
It is on mine as well. For a long time, I've wanted to do Detroit. And maybe next year, because I ain't getting any younger, guys. She mentioned the Windsor Waterfront Half Marathon, which I believe is its inaugural year as an event. I had not heard of this race. It is on the waterfront on the Windsor side, the Canadian side, looking onto the Detroit side on the river, which is kind of cool. I've run on that trail. I've run on that it's like a multi-use path along the
Riverside. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that all the time. That was our classic long run route. There were 2 places to run in Windsor, and that was one of them. So I did a lot of miles. I think I'm a Strava local legend at one of those segments, which just means you're the person who's run it the most.
Just mean you're the psycho that's run way too much in Windsor, Ontario.
Yes.
Okay, so next one is a shoe question from Robert in Columbus, Ohio. He's 59, started running in 2021. And he knew almost nothing about running when he started. and he gets into quite a bit of detail about his gait and noted that he's run in, like, he lists pretty much like every shoe brand you can possibly think of. And then he sort of landed upon zero drop shoes, Ultra in particular. And then he wants to know, is there any benefit to drifting back towards an elevated drop in the heel? Does a 6 mil plus drop hinder me in any way? That's an interesting question. I would say if you've found yourself enjoying zero drop shoes, he says he's got a short stride at this running gait, and he strikes on the ball of his foot, so under his hips. So I say the thing is, I think zero drop shoes are actually not for a lot of runners, not for a lot of people. I'm not a big zero drop guy myself. I don't know if either of you have ever experimented. Were you ever zero drop curious?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I had a phase. I had two phases actually back in 2012 when it was very popular and common to try zero drop shoes. And then again, coming back from injury when I was just trying everything around 2020, I ran a season, if you can call it that, in ultra running shoes with fine results. I didn't mind them so much. Mm-hmm. Look, Robert, maybe I'm completely out of left field here, but I'm like reading your question and I'm wondering if these criteria or these details that you're writing about are observations that you've made about your own running or things that you've like strived to change or fix about your stride. Like, is your gait smaller because it's just become that way, or did you like try to make it smaller? Are you striking on the ball of your foot because you've tried to make it so because someone might have said that? It's just the way that I'm reading it. And I'm asking this because I think when it comes to zero drop shoes or 8 millimeter drop shoes or whatever, you just need to go where the injuries are not, right? Like if you're running in zero drop shoes and you always have and you feel great doing so, terrific. If you're trying to enter it as a trend and you're having mixed results, it's probably not for you. There's nothing that's better or worse. Like Michael said, I think it's more common to find success in shoes that do have a bit of a drop to them. But really, I think the exploration is personal. If you don't have any injuries with zero drop shoes, keep going with that. Yeah. But also, there's no shame in going up in drop. It's just, you know.
Yeah, it's not like, it's, I think sometimes there's this kind of like a cult of these things that form where it's like, this is the real one true way. And you've got to like, what you have to do is change your gait. And there's like one way to run and you should be forming your body toward it. And this is the way you actually stay healthy and uninjured and so on.
And this is how our ancestors did it. We hear a lot of that. Like we're meant to run this way. That's kind of crap. Don't believe in that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Just take a look at any number of Ethiopian or Kenyan elite athletes at the very front of major marathons, and you get all sorts of different running gaits. You get heel strikers, forefoot, midfoot. You get people with all sorts of interesting arm carriage, head bobbing, the whole bit, right? So I think it's what your body can do safely and comfortably, and just roll with that. I do have one recommendation if you are curious about moving into a little bit of a heel to toe drop ratio, but you still want to stay close to home with the Ultra stuff. Ultra actually makes a shoe that they've tried to kind of expand into the more like the gen pop of runners. And they've made a shoe called the Experience Flow. And they're in the second iteration, the Experience Flow 2, which we've tested quite a bit. Alex and I both. It's a 4 millimeter drop shoe. It's got that nice wide toe box that Ultra makes. It's a nice looking shoe. I actually love the foam they use. I think this is a nice happy medium for you. I think it's a good option.
Mm-hmm. An alternate option for you too, believe it or not, the Hoka Clifton 9 is a well cushioned shoe that only has a 5 millimeter drop. So if you can't for some reason find the Ultra shoe, maybe a Clifton 9 is a good place to start. Not the 10. They completely changed the heel to toe drop in the 10, right. But the 9 might be a good on-ramp for you if you're curious.
All right, next one, Martin from Sydney. And this one represents a large number of emailers who ran the Sydney Marathon at the end of August or are from Sydney and are defending the event. He says, guys, love the podcast so much. I'm not sure your instant take has done Sydney justice. Please come run next year and experience it for yourselves. Okay. A bit of backstory. If you didn't listen to our instant reaction podcast from Sydney, it was myself and our colleague, Jesse, who is our news editor. And we were, as we do after every major marathon, as we jump into the Marathon Handbook studio and we talk all about our reactions to the big event. And one of the things that I said was that first of all, I asked the question, what's the identity of the Sydney Marathon as it moves into the role and responsibility of being a world marathon major, which is different than just being a really nice race that exists and is mostly run by local people and people within that country. And then it gets some tourism, some traveling marathoners as well. Being a world marathon major is like a different level altogether. And so my question was like, what identity does this race take on over time as one of the signature global marathons? That's the idea of the world marathon majors, right? One of the big 7. That was question 1 I asked, and the other comments that I was making were along the lines mostly of the broadcast, which I was fairly critical of because there were great elements of it, but elements of it, well, first of all, the flow track feed was terrible and there was no commentary for an hour. So you're just watching you're just watching the pictures. I didn't realize how important it is to have commentary.
People
when you're
speaking.
watching a marathon.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I understand what's going on here, but there's like a level of excitement missing because we're not getting any context and we're not getting any dialogue. And I really missed that. And it was a really big ball drop on the part of FlowTrack. Like, oh my God, they had so many screw ups with these marathon broadcasts. Tokyo was also terrible as well, kept cutting out. It was mostly my criticism. Then I had some other ancillary criticisms as well. But like, yes, 3 of us, you want to go to Sydney?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd go to Sydney.
Absolutely. It looks like an amazing city.
Yep.
The marathon looked beautiful. It looked beautiful, like crossing the bridge, finishing in front of that opera house. I mean, an iconic architectural masterwork. Sign me up. I'd love to run the Sydney Marathon. Sydney,
We'll do it.
We're right here. We'll come next year. Okay. We have a commitment to covering the majors, so we'd gladly go to Sydney. See if we can make that happen. Ooh, I gotta like the Australians. They're coming after me. I'll tell you guys. They're not happy with me.
There are heaps of Australians, Michael. Heaps
of angry Australians. Yeah. Okay, Menno, I believe is the way his name is pronounced. Menno. This is what an email this is, guys. Okay. So he wants to know how to get back into running and training for the marathon again after a bit of a layoff, but hear me out here. So here's his background. He's 44. So he and I are contemporaries. He started running in 2022. So he's only been running for a couple of years. He started running to lose weight and to get in a better shape. So he went from 120 kilos to 82 kilos. I'm not great with kilos, even though I'm a metric system guy.
We got 100. Yeah, okay. So
she lost quite a bit of weight. He's lost like almost 40 kilos.
He was 264.
Yeah. And now he's down to under 200 pounds.
180, roughly.
Yeah.
Yep, 180.
Okay. Wow. We don't know how tall he is. We don't know anything else. Okay. And now he's run 3 marathons, and his most recent one was last December in Valencia. He ran 3:36. For you, that's really
great.
Nice.
That's amazing.
He was running about 6 days a week at the time, peak week mileage being around 110 kilometers. I mean, this all aligns really nicely, and it sounds like you've got some opportunity here to improve as well. So, So after he finished Valencia, he decided to take on a new challenge, and he decided to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. Do you guys know this? You guys know the Pacific Crest Trail? Did you heard of it before?
No.
Okay. It's basically hiking from Mexico to the Canadian border.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That
Wow.
sounds amazing.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a walk.
Yep.
Yeah, a little bit.
4,200 kilometer hike, he said. I had a cousin who did this about 10 or 15 years ago. I remember her talking about this. Incredible experience.
2,625 miles, just for our miles people out there. Holy moly.
135 days on the trail. So this is equivalent to like Appalachian Trail type experience, right? The whole shebang. He was 135 days of hiking. And he's now about a week out from finishing the hike when he sent us this email. If you've finished by this point, congratulations, Menno. That's incredible.
Yep.
During the hike, he's dropped an additional 12 kilos. So he's down to about 70 kilos.
Whoa. So 155 pounds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He's lean and mean right now. And he says, I feel like I'm just leg muscles and bones left. Yeah. I mean, that's, yeah. So his question is, when he's done with the trail and he's thinking about doing a marathon in the spring, most likely Rotterdam in his home country of the Netherlands, which is a fantastic race, flat, fast. This has got like PR written all over it. However, he's rightfully concerned about getting back into running again after such a long period off. Like, I don't think Menno was out running 10 milers in between his days of hiking. Like, he wasn't like finishing his day of hiking and being like, you know what I'm going to do now is run for 60 minutes. I think it was probably just all hiking for 135 days.
Wow.
So it's a huge, it's what, just doing the math here, that's 4-5 months off, right? That's a big time off.
Mm-hmm.
So his question is, do I treat getting back into this like a couch to 5K type program, or is that too conservative? And how do I return safely to running? And he wants to make sure that his body is going to be online, and, he wants to make sure he's doing the right things as he moves back towards the marathon. We could apply this to so many different people, like a big injury, you're off for 6 months, trying to get back into it again. Are you starting from zero? Like, where's your re-entry point into running again? What's your thinking, Kaylin?
Well, I mean, of course, from doing all this hiking, he's got this like super strong aerobic engine going. I mean,
yes.
So your cardiovascular base has got to be just immense, but you don't have the exact, your body and your muscles aren't, like, they need to adapt again to the pounding of running.
Yes.
So that's something that, even though you have been hiking and it's just incredible fitness, the adaptation that your body needs to do to running again could take a little bit more time, because you haven't been doing that, because hiking is a little lower impact, of course, and running is high impact. So what I would say is, I don't think that you need to go all the way back to a couch to 5K, but what I would say is just start by running, if you want, every other day, and intersperse it with cross training, right? So you're continuing to do low impact work and some shorter runs. Start it with some shorter runs just to get your body back. Your cross training sessions could be much longer. So thinking about things like the elliptical trainer, where you're using running mechanics without the impact. So that would be a great way for you to start getting back into it. So running elliptical, running some biking, running elliptical, things like that, to get you back into it gradually. Take like a nice 6 to 8 weeks to get that base going again, and gradually increase your run time. And little by little, after a couple of weeks or after a few weeks, switch out one of those cross training days for another running day. So just do everything really, really gradually, so you don't get any overuse injuries, and get your body built back up to being used to that impact that running has that hiking doesn't.
Yeah. I'd also say that if you're able to work with a coach who has some experience with body composition, that would be a good move, because the thing that's really different about you is that you have quite a different body than you used to have. So a couple months ago, I did this story on people working out with Ozempic. Not your situation, but kind of similar. People coming back to working out with bodies that were very different than what they were perhaps 6 months ago or a year ago. Right now, it seems there's some thought that these people tend to be more prone to bone-related injury than others, because it's kind of a counterintuitive thing that when you have more weight on your body, your bones are working harder on the day-to-day to support that weight, which actually makes your bones stronger. And then when you go and drop a lot of weight, it's a change in stimulus for the bones. Now, everybody's different, and there's a lot that's still not known about this, so I totally don't want to scare you, but it's also, I think, a matter that you shouldn't neglect the fact that your body's probably operating in a whole different way than it used to. And you might want to talk to a professional who has experience with that, because that's a huge weight fluctuation.
Yeah.
And you might also, because you are a lot lighter, feel like you can tackle huge weeks compared to what you used to be able to do. So in a sense, you might need that professional to save you from yourself a little bit too.
Yes.
And
Right.
Yes.
the other thing I want to mention is I spoke to a personal trainer who often trains people who were on Ozempic and came back. And a big challenge is food and nutrition. Sometimes after losing all that much weight, and especially on Ozempic, because I think there are effects around appetite, they don't eat enough. And so in your case, I want to make sure you're eating enough. And again, this is not for me to say or to judge because I'm not the professional, but if you can have someone in your circle who's like knowledgeable about these things, I think that's going to take you a long way. Because I agree. I think you have a whole lot of potential to like crack something, run way faster than you ever have, but that might require some patience. You want to make sure you get there in one piece and just safely in general.
Yeah. I'd say remember your number one goal when you started off running, which was to improve your quality of your life, right? We can get distracted by big shiny goals and times, and you start thinking like, oh, can I run like a Boston qualifier and that sort of thing. And it's really motivating and exciting. And it's something that maybe just a few short years ago you would never in your wildest dreams have imagined yourself being in this place that you're in now. But you need to do it safely, and you need to do it in a healthy way. And you also need to keep in mind that like the number one goal was to live a happier, healthier life and to take care of yourself. And part of that is to properly, properly feed yourself and to like make sure that you have a good self-body image, a good healthy relationship with your own body as well, and that you're working with people that can help you succeed, right? So like you said, great recommendation, Alex, to like work, and Caitlin, you always love them. Work with a coach, work with somebody who's got a good knowledge, work with somebody who's got a good knowledge base who can help guide you and, tell you when you need to probably dial it back more than sound like a pretty A-type person. So like you're no stranger to hard work, clearly. But yeah, make sure you're doing it in a healthy way and you're feeling nice and strong as well. And like make goals for like next season for Rotterdam, and then make a goal for the fall and think 2, 3, 5 years down the road. What do you want out of running? And you can just take your time getting there. Right. Okay. So this will be the last one, and we've got a whole bunch of other questions that we wanted to get to, but I think
we'll have to do another episode.
We're going to back pocket some of these questions for next week and the week after. A couple of questions from fellow Canadians, Alex.
Hey.
About one question about Toronto in particular. Hey.
I did not. That was not intentional.
Just came out of
unfortunately.
You. It just came out of you. The Canadian just came out of you there.
We just blurt that out every 45 minutes.
Hey, sorry.
Hey.
And we'll make sure we get to those questions as well. And obviously, if you've got a question, podcast@marathonhandbook.com, and we will definitely get to it. And we'll be doing a winter mailbag at the end of the season as well. Okay, so last one's a nerdy one. Ross in Scotland, World Marathon Majors. He sends us this great email because we talk about the World Marathon Majors when we do our previews, and we power rank the World Marathon Majors. We talk about the state of the World Marathon Majors. It's a fascinating idea, fascinating and at times sort of controversial thing. They've just added Sydney. They've got 7 now. There's clearly going to be a couple more in probably Shanghai and Cape Town down the line. So Ross suggests, he's like, I think this is what they should do. So let's nerd out for a second before we close this pod out.
I love this.
He sees it as he's like, let's expand the World Marathon Majors to 12 events, make it truly global. And here's his vision: 3 North American events, Boston, New York, Chicago. They already exist. 3 European races: London, Berlin, Paris.
Add Paris in there. Okay.
2 Southern Americas races. 1, Mexico City. The other, Rio de Janeiro. 2 races in Asia. Tokyo, which already is in the group.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shanghai, which we have a good sense will be added in the next couple of years.
Right.
1 race in Africa, Cape Town, which is in a finalist for the next
Also on the
couple of years.
list. Yeah.
And then 1 in the Oceania region, which is Sydney, which is the 7th World Marathon Major. What do you guys think of that global list of 12 events?
Oh, so I don't think, Ross, that I could have come up with a better list of 12, other than maybe including Toronto in there for my fellow
Jeez.
Canadians.
It was a good race.
I always wondered why Paris wasn't already included in one of the majors. And I suppose the reason is we already have Berlin and London that are close together, but that shouldn't preclude Paris from being one of the races. I guess this is my one criticism, not so much a criticism, but a question. I wonder how we could have major marathons in Mexico City and Rio de Janeiro. Caitlin, you're the South American expert on this pod. Is there a time of year or a time of day where a marathon could conceivably happen there where it's not too hot and that fast times could happen?
Well, to be honest, we'd have to look into them because please do not quote me on this because I'm not sure, but I think Mexico City is actually at altitude, correct? So that would be kind of,
it is.
Yeah. So I would actually say that would be a really tricky marathon because of altitude. Now, I am not that familiar with Brazil, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how the different climate, how the weather goes throughout the year, but we could definitely look into that and see when the best time of year would be.
The answer is probably never. The Rio Marathon in 2025 took place on June 22nd, which is not typically a time you would associate with running a marathon. However,
it says like high 78, low 68. Yeah, it's a little warm. Yeah, June's warm.
Now, the argument for it would be, big city fits really well. Fits really well on the calendar. There's no other marathon in June in the World Marathon Majors circuit.
Mm-hmm.
That's one option for sure. It's tough to run a race close to the equator, right? I mean, it's just always hot close to the equator. And Mexico City is a very big marathon, which is wildly popular in Mexico. Gets big numbers. Mexico has seen a huge running boom in recent years, and that would be probably a good fit. Shanghai seems like a no-brainer. Cape Town sounds like both Cape Town and Shanghai are getting kind of finalized for this. Question would be like, instead of, I like Paris. I've run Paris and I like Paris. My question would be like Valencia. Valencia's in December. Valencia.
We've always mentioned that, right? About thinking about sneaking that in to the majors. And you're right, time frame wise, it would work because we don't have something in December.
Yeah. But I like this concept.
Yeah, me too.
Going to like 10 or 12, blowing it out, making it truly global, putting a couple of marathons, at least a marathon in every major region, continent of the world. So it feels like a global series of events. I think it's a good idea. Ross, I think you're right. I think this is inevitably where this all goes down the line.
Conspiracy.
Go on. Ross works for World Marathon Majors.
No. The conspiracy does not involve Ross. Dubai tries to make a play.
That's complicated.
Yeah, it is. But I think they will try. I'm not sure if they will. I think they'd have the same issue. We see a lot of sport washing coming from that part of the world. It would be super hot in Dubai. I don't know if it's ever really viable, but I feel like there will be a pitch coming across the World Marathon Majors' desk in the near future.
Yep. Dubai, Doha, perhaps Saudi Arabia. These are parts of the world that are extremely affluent oil countries. that have spotty human rights records and aren't democratic countries. These are countries that are very interested in international sports, as evidenced by their desire to do things like World Athletics Championships in 2019 in Doha. And then, of course, Saudi Arabia is positioning itself for the Olympics as an example. So I wouldn't be surprised. And we've done some reporting actually in the recent past about interest on the part of Saudi Arabian investment in world athletics. So we shall see. We shall see. Complicated subject. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Not a subject for 2 hours into.
No, or maybe a good subject to bury 2 hours in, especially as journalists. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Okay, so if you have questions for us, comments, thoughts, your take on which world marathon majors should be, which races should be world marathon majors in the near future, let us know. Podcast at marathonhandbook.com. We have just done a marathon session of podcasting here. Okay. So gang, coming up in the near future, we will definitely be doing something in Chicago. We'll do some sort of a little get together. Email us if you're going to be in Chicago and you want to hang out. That would be cool. And then we'll drip out more information on what we're going to do in Toronto. And then we've got New York, where our whole team is going to be in New York, our entire team. And we're going to do all kinds of neat stuff there. We're planning that right now as well. We've got a bunch of neat stuff forthcoming. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel to get everything. Give us a rating and review on the podcasting platform you're listening to or on YouTube, and that really helps. As well, subscribe to our newsletter. It goes out every day of the week, 5:05 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find that at marathonhandbook.com/newsletter. Send us a voice note at marathonhandbook.com/podcast. And follow us on Instagram, because we're doing a lot of stuff on Instagram, and it's an easy way for you to find out what's going on. I'm going to go take a break from talking. I'm going to take a vow of silence for the next 12 hours. My 7-year-old is going to be devastated when I pick him up from school, and I'm just like, do not talk to me. No questions. No questions. No running-related questions. And all right, until next week.
All right.
See you later.